Welcome everyone to our Cybermentoring session with Janine Robinson. I know that our Gear Up students are seniors already. I'm so excited about that. We've been working with you all since you were in the 7th grade, and you all are very, very busy now working on your college admissions essays. And this is perfect timing because I'm sure that many kids have started their essays and they need a jump start on how to keep going and keep that momentum going with some awesome tips. So we have an expert with us today. Her name is Janine Robinson, author of Janine Robinson's Essay Bootcamp, and she's going to give us some information to help continue those essays in a compelling and competitive way. So welcome, Janine. Thanks for being with us this morning.
Thank you. It's nice to be here, and thanks everybody for tuning in. Some of you, I'm assuming I have seen in the past at some of my workshops, the teachers and students. Good to see you again. If you're a student who hasn't attended any of these, welcome. I'm so glad that you get a chance to hear some of these tips as well. It's never too late. I think that once you get a good idea for one of your essays, you can write a great essay in an hour or two. You know, ideally, of course, it's better to spend more time brainstorming and working on it, but just don't despair if you're still trying to find that topic or crank out your essays. I was just talking to Angela about the deadlines, you know, for Apply Texas, and what she said is, you know, it depends on the school that you're applying to. So you need to obviously be on top of that. Do you think, Angela, it's just best to just get that Apply Texas account and to find out when your deadlines are for these essays?
Definitely, Janine. I believe on most of our schools, many of our schools are already having the students go into their computer labs and work on their Apply Texas. Some of them are going through their English classes, some are going through their government and economics classes, but every school has a system to get the kids in and get those Apply Texas applications done. Now, it depends on the schools that the students are applying to as to when the deadline is. I know UT Austin and Texas A&M, their deadline's December 1st. Other schools, of course, have different deadlines. And so in addition to completing the Apply Texas, our Gear Up students need to be researching which schools they're going to apply to, making a list of those schools and what the deadlines are. And students, I know your Gear facilitators are telling you this, but you're going to hear from me as well. Whatever the deadlines are to apply to your colleges, subtract a month. So in other words, if you're applying to UT Austin and the deadline's December 1st, get everything in by November 1st. If you're applying to a school with a deadline of February 1st, get everything in a month early, January 1st, because there will be unexpected things that they need, and you need some time to get those things in to meet the deadline. So, but it does vary by school, Janine, and I know all the kids, most of them are in progress right now with their Apply Texas accounts.
Okay, that's great. Great background. Good to know all this. It can be really overwhelming, I know. And the best way is to just get a system for yourself to keep track. And if you take it one step at a time, it all works out. And you do have time to get these applications in and the essays done. So, you know, just really quickly, if you haven't seen me before, my Janine Robinson, my background is journalism. I was a newspaper reporter, magazine editor. I'm tuning in here from California, and I was so lucky. I've been out to your area at least 4 times to work with students, and I've also done this cyber internet type of thing several times. And so what I'm going to do is just in a nutshell what my thinking. I just want to tell you what my thinking is, my best advice on these essays, and the general approach. The general sort of formula or strategy that seems to work so well to turn an essay that could be sort of bland or too general or boring into something that's engaging and also meaningful. You know, I don't know if you've looked at any of the tips on what makes a great essay. You know, there's a lot of components, whether it's the essay for your common application, which is that core personal statement essay that you will be using if you're applying to private schools, whether the Ivy League schools, the Harvard, those types of schools, or the smaller liberal arts schools around the country and in Texas, such as Rice University, and then this approach also works really well if you're writing the 3 essays, any of the ones that you need for your particular application for Apply Texas.
You just click on the link. It's a webinar that's going on right now. I just joined it to see if anybody had logged on.
The Apply Texas application requires 3 essays.
It's going to tell you.
And they have 3 prompts.
Janine, hold on. Let me to someone. I think we have a group that needs to mute their mic.
I think it's Gomez.
There you go. If you've just joined us, if you could look down at the very bottom of the screen in the bottom left-hand corner. Perfect.
There you got it. You got it.
And also on A. Gomez, if you could go to the chat box and tell me what school you're from, and welcome. Thanks for joining us. Okay.
Yeah. And I invite anybody, I can see the chat as well, and Angela monitors it. Any questions, throw those up there. We want this to be as interactive as possible. So basically, just getting back to, there's the common application, which is for the private schools, and then if you apply to almost any public school in Texas, you use an application called Apply Texas. You can go online, set up your account, and then look at which particular school you want to apply to, and it will tell you what essays you are required to write. But the Apply Texas application has 3 essays that sometimes they'll require the first and second, sometimes the first, second, and the third is optional. But I'm going to go through all 3 of them. There's prompt A, B, and C today. And when I say a prompt, that's basically a question that they throw out there to help you think of an idea of how to write about yourself. These prompts, even though they're usually questions, they're not like some of the other questions that you've done, for AP classes, that type of thing. You don't necessarily want to answer them verbatim or literally. They're to prompt an idea so that you can craft an essay to convey something meaningful about yourself. Of course, you still read them, look for what they want you to talk about. So some of the top things that make an essay, any essay, more effective are, 1, that they're engaging, that they reach out and grab you. And the place to do that is at the very beginning. Every essay, almost all writing, requires that. Because if you think about it, if you aren't grabbed and pulled in at the beginning, they're not going to read the rest of all that great stuff you wrote about. So I'm sure English teachers, you talked about those grabbers, those hooks that you want at the beginning. That's what a good essay has. I'm going to go into a little bit later some of the tricks to doing that, making sure your essay has that. I think another thing about a great essay is that it's focused. That instead of saying too much about yourself or throwing in too many of your ideas, that you have one main point that you want to make in your essay, usually about yourself. And then you can go deeper and throw it around and say all these different things about that one main point to support it. But you want one main point. A focused essay is an interesting essay. Another thing about a great essay, I think, is if it's highly personal. And personal means that it captures something about your personality. Personal means that in that essay, you haven't written something that sounds like an academic essay where we can't hear your voice. You want it to have things about how you feel and what you think and what you believe. And if you open up about yourself, that is how you make an essay personal. And if it's personal, then we get you and we like you and you're in your camp. So again, I'm going to talk about this little process, these other tips that are going to help you inject some of these features into your essays. Obviously, you want to connect with the reader, and you want to have that meaning. You want to have in your essay things that talk about what you believe, what you care about. And at the end of this, I'm going to talk about how I know a lot of you might have a great start on your essay. Maybe you've thought of some example or a little story from your life or an experience that you want to share. But then how do you bring more meaning to that? I'm going to talk about how to flesh out these essays at the end of this little workshop. So now you know what you need to do. There's a process that will help you whether you're writing your Common App essay or any of the 3 Applied Texas essays. Those 3 essays, my understanding, are all considered core essays in that there's no required word count that I know of, but my understanding is they should all be around 500 words. 450, 550, but that's a nice length to really say something meaningful. So the beauty is, I think we've introduced many of you to this already, but if you're in the Gear Up program, and I understand all of you are, you should have a Gear Up ID and know how to go to the Gear Up website. And so I'm going to show you, once you get there, I have a boot camp that I put together, an online boot camp. Can you see that, Angela?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll let you, if you want to go over really quickly how to access this, or do most of the students know this at this point?
Right, just really quickly, students, your teacher and your Gear Up facilitator, of course, can guide you through this. If they have not done so already, your teachers have access to this boot camp, and you do too through your myregion1.org account. And so students, the way you log into myregion1.org, if you haven't had a chance to, I highly recommend it. We've added tons of new features that will help you in your college search and, of course, give you access to this essay writing course. You log in with the letters G, U, and your Gear Up ID number, which is a 9-digit number. You can get it from your facilitator. And then your password is that 9-digit number. But students, please, when you have a chance, log into your myregion1.org account. We add new things on a daily basis, and there's a ton of resources there to help you with your college and career choice.
Mm-hmm. So on that website, once they get there, there's a link to this online boot camp. Is that right? And what's that link look like, Angela? Does it just say Janine Robinson's Essay Boot Camp?
Just like that. What the students do once they log in is they scroll down to school announcements. And just like that, there's a sentence that says, click here to access Janine Robinson's Essay Boot Camp. It's a live link and it'll take you right to this course.
Okay, and my understanding is you'll then have a little box that prompts you for a password.
Yes, and the password is really easy. The password is, drum roll please, Gear Up. All caps, all one word.
That's right, Gear Up, all caps, all one word.
That's it.
So I'm just real quickly, so you arrive here. What this is it's an online camp, sort of a crash course in how to write a great essay. And if you have the time, you just basically start it at the home tab here, and it takes you step by step through the brainstorming process of finding great topic ideas, tells you what makes an effective essay. So you start on the home tab and you go through, you read some of this instructional material, it's really short, and then you go to the next step, the introduction. And here's a little mini video. These videos are all 5 minutes long, 4 minutes long. They're super short. And what happens is they will step by step tell you what makes a great essay, how to find a great topic, how to write a compelling introduction, how to craft a real life experience into your introduction, which is called an anecdote. How to add depth to your essay, how to edit your essay once you're done. So it's step by step. So here we go on to step 1. And this talks about finding your defining qualities, which is a wonderful way to bring that focus into your essay. So instead of writing about all these great things that you have and are and do, it says, pick one thing about yourself. Are you creative? Are you a leader? Are you resourceful? And then write your essay about that. And that's what will give your essay a natural focus. So again, little video, short, 3 minutes long, watch that, move on to step 2. And so you can take this all the way through to step 10, which talks about how to edit your essay. You get that rough draft out. When you're writing your rough draft, it's not perfect, but you then need to go back and read it and look for what's, where you've been repeated yourself or where you need to support a point that you've made. That's the writing process. So that's the step-by-step guide. And once you get the idea of this approach, this is targeting a core personal statement essay, but this approach also works beautifully for all 3 of the applied Texas prompts as well. So I want to show you too, when you go through these steps, each step has a related handout. Some of them are worksheets that will actually help you flesh out some of your ideas when you're brainstorming. The one I think is very helpful is a sample outline, so that once you have an idea, it will actually help you write in chunks to sort of help you develop the material for your rough draft. Here's a sample outline. Your introduction, the backstory, how you handled the problem, the lessons that you learned, and your conclusion. I think that of all things, and again, that will work for these applied Texas essays as well. There's sample essays, which I think are one of the best ways to get ideas on the style of these essays, which is a sort of more storytelling using real life experiences and then saying what you learned and what they mean. And also just to learn, to get other ideas. You'll read, you'll go, oh my gosh, that student wrote about their funny first name, or that student wrote about, the first time he learned to drive a stick shift. They wrote their college essay about such an ordinary topic. You'll see how often those make the best essays. There's a lot of pressure on these essays, they can really help you get in or out and who's, help differentiate you. So there's this idea that, I really need to write about something impressive, like the most wow thing I've ever done in my life. And what we found is that you don't need to have something like that. Yes, if you've had something like that, you can write about it, but the best essays often are about the most everyday, ordinary, mundane topics. The idea is that you take something that happened, and it doesn't have to be wow and dazzling, but as long as something happened, some little interesting experience or moment, and then you can go on into your essay to talk about what you learned from that moment, and those make the best essays. So let's see, there's also over here, and if you're working on your applied Texas essays, I wrote this up for you guys specially. I go through each of the applied Texas essays one at a time. Has the prompts. Here's the 3 prompts. Topic A, what was the environment in which you were raised? Topic B, some students have an identity, an interest or talent that defines them in an essential way. If you're one of these students, tell us about yourself. And topic C, which is, I think, the most fun and out of the box and really is begging for you to write something creative and use that imagination. You've got a ticket in your hand. Where will you go? What will you do? What will happen when you get there? And then you can read on, and then I break it down. Topic A, just ideas on how to think about that topic. About that prompt. What are they asking for? So I break that down, and then I talk about the 2 things you need to make sure that you address in that prompt. And then I even have a little mini sample outline. These are just to help give you a little structure if it works for you. You're not required to stick to this. It's just an idea to give you a little structure. There's also a sample essay. I'm going to share that with you. That it's a specific essay about a girl's background. And then it goes to topic B, and the same thing. How to brainstorm, how to think about this prompt, and ideas about how to add depth and meaning to your answer as well. And then the same for topic C. So really quickly, I want to give you an idea of what this formula is that I think works so well. And even though it's a formula, it's not as though they'll read your essay and go, oh, they're using that formula. No, this is a formula of how you write a personal essay, basically. So the idea is that whatever the prompt is and whatever you're talking about, let's look at topic B. Some students have this, you pick what you're writing about. Say you want to write about a talent that you have. You're really good at the shot put. How do you write about that talent? And my thinking is a really great way is, instead of saying, when I first learned to, throw the shot put, I found I was good at it. And the more I did it, I got better. And then I won the championship. That's all great. You're just telling us about that talent. But my thinking is to make it interesting to read about. Think about a moment or a time that something happened related to that talent, and start your essay sharing that little moment or experience. Those are called anecdotes. When you take something that happened, and it usually only took place over a couple minutes, 10 minutes at the most. It's just a moment. Like, think of a little snippet of video of something that happened. And you tell that, you recreate that moment. And you use that moment to start your essay. So instead of working into telling all the background and what led up to your interest or talent, instead of starting like, I first learned about shot put when I watched the Olympics, and then I was interested, and so then I joined the team, and then I got good. Instead of all that background that leads up explaining and telling about your talent, you start with a moment. The time I threw the shot put and it actually went the wrong direction. Some little moment, something that happened. And then you've got the reader's attention. And then after you share that moment, then you can go back in time and explain what led up. Then you can go back, and the first time I saw a shot put was watching the Olympics, and then I went to my parents and said, I want to join the track team, and then go on and explain how you got better at it, what inspired you, and what you learned from doing the shot put. So that in a nutshell is this formula. And the other sort of, to me, it's almost like works like magic. When you're looking for those little moments, is to look for a time that there was some type of problem related to whatever you're writing about. I write about this in my guidebooks. I talk about it all the time. And I sometimes feel like, I sound so negative. Look for a problem. Did you have any problems? Yay, it's so wonderful to have problems. There's a first time in your life you're going to be happy that things have ever gone bad for you, or you've ever made a mistake or failed or had a challenge, or because those are interesting to read about. Problems are, when you say what happened, if you write about something that happened, it means there was a problem. When nothing happens, it's not interesting and there's no problem. Think about it. If you want to write about how you love nature, and you write about how you like to walk through the trails and look at the leaves and the beautiful sunset, good, and you can do all your descriptive writing, but I'll tell you, to read about that, for the most part, isn't that interesting because nothing happened. But if you write about when you're on that hiking trail and a bear with 2 cubs crosses your path and you're scared as heck, that's a problem. And that's interesting because we want to know what's going to happen next. Or if you're hiking and all of a sudden you twist your ankle on a rock and fall down, that's a problem. That's interesting. Or maybe you're hiking and you run out of water. That's a challenge. That's an obstacle for you to overcome, and that makes it interesting. So that's why when writing about anything about yourself, if you can think of a time that involved some type of problem, and problems come in all shapes and sizes. I actually, on this boot camp, there's a tab and one of the handouts that you can go through called Problem Finder. And you can see all the different kinds of things that are problems. They don't have to be, an earthquake or a hurricane or a death in the family. They can be little problems. Little problems work just as well, sometimes better. A mistake, a challenge, a move, an obstacle, a personal flaw. You know, my hair is too curly, my feet are too big, an obsession, a setback, a change, a phobia, conflict. Maybe you had a little argument, misunderstanding, an accident, a disorder or illness. So if you come away with anything today, it's this idea of look for your problems when you're writing any of your essays, including the applied Texas ones. So I'm going to show you really quickly, just to sort of reinforce this approach, a little, it's just a little PowerPoint. So, okay. So this little dude, I have a website.
Janine, are you there? You froze, Janine. Janine, you froze on us. Okay, so students, it looks like Janine's internet's frozen. Let me send her a quick text message and have her log back in again. So just stay with us for just a moment. Okay, so students, I've sent Janine a text message that she did freeze up, and I've asked her to log back in and rejoin us. And so she's going to be doing that right now. And so while we're waiting for Janine to rejoin us, hopefully she's been able to give you some good information this morning about your essays. I know I've visited several schools, and the conversations that I've been hearing
I'm back.
There you are. Okay.
I apologize. My computer completely freaked out. I was trying to share this little. I'm going to try it again.
Okay.
And just fingers crossed. Let's see. I need to. Thank you for your patience. I'm just trying to find this little. I'm having so much trouble here.
Okay, almost there. Looks like
Yep. This is my website called Essay Hell. The idea is that it's a metaphor for a place that you don't want to stay too long.
Right, and Janine, we're just seeing your graphic.
I'm not sharing yet.
Yeah,
okay.
We're not all the way there yet. We see you have like a very graphic, like a geometric pattern on your background.
Okay.
Almost.
Almost. Hang on. I need to. It says I'm sharing my screen. I'm sharing that screen. All right, here we go. And move this over here.
Here we go. Now we're cooking. All right, super.
Okay, so here's the. Okay, so anyway, these are the 3 steps. I sort of, if you use that boot camp, can you see this okay?
Yes, it's perfect.
Okay. If you use the boot camp, that'll take you about an hour to go through, and you'll learn everything you ever wanted to know about this process of brainstorming, finding a problem to, find that little moment to write about. It's all boiled down into 3 steps. So the first, now it skipped ahead on me. So the first idea is that you think of a problem that's related to the prompt. And say you're writing about a talent. So you try to think about, you're looking for something that happened, right? Related to that talent. You're looking for a time or a moment. I call it a little mini story. So step 1, think of a time something happened to you related to what you're talking about. So if you're writing about prompt A, it talks about write about your environment or your background. You can pick your home or your community, your culture. So say you want to write about your family for prompt A. You can start brainstorming by think about a time that something happened related to your family. And if you're trying to find something that happened, the best way is to think of a time of some sort of problem that your family dealt with. Think of a time that involves some kind of problem. And I talk about all the different shapes and sizes that problems can come in. So was there some obstacle, or was there some sort of challenge or issue that your family faced? It could be a financial hardship. It could be an issue with one of your brothers or sisters. There's all sorts of things that families deal with all the time. Boom, you could write about that. You could, think of a moment that would help us understand that problem. And then you can go into the beauty of these problems. Once you have a problem, you have a little story to share. And so try to brainstorm these problems, write down your ideas. And that idea that your story does not have to be impressive. It can be just a little time that, you were late for school or you missed the bus. That could be a little mini problem, especially if it sort of represents a larger issue, The idea of mundane topics, ordinary, every day. So you start with that little moment at the beginning. Recount a moment or incident. And then you want to see if that little story does stand for something larger. Say you do write about how you miss the bus. You miss the bus at least once a week. Well, why is that? Maybe it's because there's some other issue going on in your house. Maybe it's because you have a sibling with some disorder or some issue, And then that's the bigger problem. And the beauty of a problem, and I haven't told you why they're so great. Obviously, one, they're interesting because something happened. But beyond that, you share that problem, and then you have more to talk about because you can say, one, how you feel about it, how it makes you feel. Two, the steps you took to deal with that problem, how you handled it, how you manage it, which is really interesting stuff. And then you're poised for the meat of your essay. The best juicy stuff is, what did you learn in dealing with that problem? What did you learn about yourself, your own ability to deal with that problem? What inspired you to deal with that problem? What did you learn? Was there a quality about yourself that you didn't know you had? Maybe I realized I actually am a leader, or I'm a problem solver, or I'm really creative. Talk about that. And then also to go even deeper, you can say, I learned this and this about myself. And then you can say, why does that matter? Why does it matter that I learned that I'm a leader? Well, because, there's other things that I do that require people stepping up and taking charge, or leading by example, or being that person to put a team together. So that's the beauty of using a problem when you're writing about an essay. So you have this mini story, and that's interesting. And you can, in that little mini story, when you talk about something that happened, a lot of times that relates and shows some quality about you. You say you're writing about this, an interest that you have. Again, for topic B, it says you can write about identity, an interest, or a talent. Just pick one. You're not writing about all three. Pick one of those. And say you're writing about an interest that you have in classical music. Think about some problem, something related to that. Maybe you used to hate it. Maybe your parents played it all the time and you couldn't stand it. Maybe that's the problem. So how did you deal with that? When you're talking about how you dealt with the problem, look for what personal quality you used in handling it. And that's something that you can then write about when you talk about what you learned by dealing with that problem. I used this quality that I have, or I developed it more. So step 2, what you learned from the mini story. We talked about maybe a lot of you have gotten this whole idea of looking for those little moments, those little mini experiences, things that have happened, and use those to start your essays. And you share what happened, and then you explain the background, kind of what led up to it. And then you're like, now what do I write? Now how do I make this deeper and more meaningful? Well, this is where you go into sharing more about how you feel, how you think, what your opinions are, maybe weighing the good and the bad of what happened. That's where you reflect and you share, what in my thinking did I draw on for inspiration to get me through this? Or you can analyze it, why did that happen? Did I change in some way when I dealt with this problem? Did I get some new ideas? Did I think about things a little bit differently after that? Share all that. That's the stuff that colleges like to see. They like to see how you think, your logic, your reason, your ability to toss around ideas. And during this whole reflective sharing and analyzing about what you learned in dealing with whatever the problem was, you don't need to solve the problem. And also, there's no right or wrong answers here. You're not graded on this. They just want to see how you think. They want to hear your teenage voice and just what your ideas are and how you feel about things. So include how you felt, what you did, and what you learned in the process of tackling or just managing or dealing with whatever the problem was.
Janine, go back to that slide again really quickly, the one you were just on. Perfect.
Sure.
And so students and teachers, I asked Janine to go back just because one thing that has been mentioned to me as I visit with schools and I chat with teachers and I chat with students, for the ones that have been able to use this course and start their essay using these techniques that Janine is promoting with us, what's been relayed to me is that the students have seemed to do okay, Janine, with identifying a problem and an anecdote. They seem to have done okay, starting their essay that way with an anecdote that showcases a problem that they may have faced, and they are doing fine then going back into the backstory. And so, Janine, what teachers have expressed to me is where the kids seem to be getting stuck in their essay is in this reflective thinking part. The how did you solve the problem? What did you learn? How do you think about things in general now? And so I wanted to kind of pause on this slide because if anyone's getting stuck there, if they're doing okay with the problem, the anecdote, and the backstory, if they're getting stuck on how did you solve the problem? I know when I talk to students, I've talked to some remarkably bright students, and I'll ask them, how did you solve the problem? And they'll say, I don't know, I just did. And so I know reflective thinking is a challenge for most people. So students, if you're there in the classroom watching this, I know I've got paper beside me right now, and I'm jotting down some notes, some things you might want to use here. How did you feel? What did you do? What did you learn? I know Janine was just speaking a moment ago, and some of the things she said was when you're thinking about your problem and your anecdote, why did it happen? Did you change in the way you think about things? Do you now think about things in a new way? Do you now think differently? And so as Janine continues to go through the slides, we're really working now with the most important part, as she just said, how you dealt with the problem. And students, I'm making notes, and I hope you are too, okay?
Right, that's exactly right. This reflective thinking can be hard. You're like, well, that happened, and then I dealt with it, and what else is there to say? Well, what you do when you get to that point is you can even write this in your essay if it helps you get into this kind of thinking. Looking back, if you start looking back And then you say, I now, and you go on. And it's where you step back and now you're looking at what happened. Oh, that thing happened. I dealt with it. And now that I look back at it and think about what happened and how I handled it, I realized that I used to be more this way. Or looking back, it makes me wonder if that was fair. Or looking back, I now see that it really was a good thing that this happened because it changed me this way. Or so that's when you reflect. It's where the thing has happened and you took those steps to deal with it. But now there's a time where it's almost in the past and you step back and it's almost like you're critiquing it. You're thinking about it more, you know. What did I learn about when that happened? You know, did I learn anything when I dealt with that problem about myself? Did I learn anything about how other people are? Did I learn anything about just sort of how the world is in general? Any kind of life lessons? So I'm going to keep going here, and when we're done, I'm going to go through the prompts, and again, reinforce this process. So again, the more that you open up and say, if you use the word I felt or I feel in your essay, somewhere in one sentence, you're going to include something highly personal, and you're opening up, and that's good stuff, because that's how you connect with the reader. Write like you talk. In these essays, they're not academic English paper, you know, reports or essays. They're personal essays. You write in more familiar language. If there's any word that you wouldn't use when talking with your friends or your family, some big word, or don't use it in these essays. So get personal. Share what you learned about yourself. Here it is again, about others and about the world. If you can write one sentence about each of those. When I look back at that problem and what happened and how I dealt with it, I learned about myself, what? I learned about other people involved in it, what? And I learned about the world. What did I learn about the world? Maybe sometimes in life, when you're writing about the world or those kind of big life, the big lessons like that, you use words like, you know, sometimes in life, things aren't always fair. You know, maybe that's, or sometimes in life, if you don't make a mistake, you're not going to learn anything. Those are called universal truths. It's just a big word that means those kind of life lessons that you learn. They're true for everybody. And that's a nice thing to, you know, include in your essay. Step 3, include why what you learned matters. And that's where you're digging even deeper. So say you learn these things about yourself and the world. Now, why does it matter that you learn those things? Why does it matter that you learn that you're a good leader? Why does it matter that you now understand that you're creative? Why does it matter that you're innovative or a problem solver? Well, because you're going to go on and do other things, and you can give examples of that. Because I want to be an engineer, you know. Because I want to be an engineer, I realize now it's a strength that I'm able to look at a problem and come up with strategies for it. You know, it's a strength. I want to be an art major, so I now see that it's really valuable that I am a creative thinker and that I like to think out of the box. Mm-hmm. So it's a trickier one, but if you want to add another level of depth, that's, you know, explain why it matters that you value integrity or social justice or a musical ear. Mm-hmm. Or, you know, in these prompts, explain why it matters that you have that talent. Explain why it matters that you have that interest. For topic A, explain why it matters that you have, you know, that you learned whatever you did from growing up in your family or in your particular neighborhood or in your culture. Look for that life lesson. That's that universal truth. Wrap up your essay by sharing how you intend to apply what you learned in your future. It's a nice way to say, I learned this about myself, and now these are my goals and dreams, and this is how I see that helping me accomplish those or further myself. So that's the little, in a nutshell, find your story, look for a problem related to whatever the topic is, the prompt is, whether it's writing about your background or your environment, whether it's writing about your identity, an interest, or a talent, or even if it's about writing about that topic C. You have a ticket somewhere, you go there, and it's something happened. So again, so I'll go over topic C a little bit more. Find your little story. If it has a problem, then you can go on to how you felt about it, how you dealt with it, and then number 2, what you learned, where you step back. That happened to me, I dealt with it. How did I change? What did I learn? Was there something good out of it? Always look for the good. When you talk about a problem, in these essays, this is something that we found. When you do write about those little stories should only take up a paragraph, a short paragraph at the beginning. These essays are not just one big story. The idea is you share that little moment, and you share most of your essay talking about how you dealt with it, what you learned. It's really an important thing to remember. And then 3, share why whatever you learned matters. Why does it matter to you? And why does it matter to the world? And why does it matter in life? All right, so can you see the boot camp now?
Yes.
Okay, we don't have a lot of time, so I just want to go over really quickly more specifically. I sort of talked a little bit here about prompt B, right? So I think we kind of hope you starting to get the idea. You write about an interest. Look for something that happened. You want to find something that happened that might be interesting to start your essay? Think of a problem, a challenge, a time you messed up, a time that maybe you have some sort of obsession related to that interest. That's a problem. Then you go on to share how you felt about it, give the background so we understand what led up to this, when you first started the interest, how you developed that interest, that kind of background. And then what you learned, how you dealt with that issue and what you learned about yourself, reflect why it matters, what you learned. So I just want to go over this topic C, and I hope you have a little fun with this one. You've got a ticket in your hand. Where will you go? What will you do? What will happen when you get there? And yeah, you should try to answer all 3 of those questions, but your prompt is not, you don't write your essay answering each question, right? It's just to give you an idea. So I like this topic because I think, one, if you do happen to know what you want to study in college, it wouldn't hurt to think of a place that you would go where something might happen that's somehow related to that field. Maybe you want to be an engineer, so maybe your ticket is, you're in a something sort of that you built. Somehow think, if you can, a way to link this somehow so that you can write a little bit about how you think and feel about, or what quality you have, that would make you an effective engineer. So you want to be an engineer. Problem solving is a fabulous quality to have. So just when you have your ticket and you have some sort of thing happened, use your problem solving skills, showcase those somehow in this. So you have a ticket in your hand. So obviously you're going somewhere, but it's all up to you. You get to make this up. And you can stick more in the literal and say, I've got a ticket in my hand. I'm going to take a train across the country. Or I'm going to fly to my dream place, in South Africa. You can go somewhere. Your mode of travel can be interesting. I'm going to ride a hot air balloon, or I'm going to make my own bicycle, and ride across the country. So just think, really brainstorm ideas out of the box. You can also go somewhere in the future. You can go somewhere in the past. You can time travel. To me, the most important thing in this topic, in this prompt, is what will happen when you get there. So whatever fun thing, whatever fun ticket you have, they want to have a story. They want something to happen. They say it right here, what will happen. And remember how I said nothing happens unless you have a problem? So if you want to think about a way to find something that happened, have something go a little bit wrong on your trip. Throw in a problem. I'm on the hot air balloon, all of a sudden the fire went out. We started, going down. That's something that happened. And then you can go, you're set up again, there you are. That thing happened, how did I deal with it, and what did I learn? And then your essay will have some meaning, instead of just talking about, I went on this fun little trip. This still is a college application essay. They still want to know, how you think about things, how you feel. So that's why they're putting in something happened. Because if something happened, you can say how you felt, how you dealt with it, what you learned. So I would say wherever you go with that fun ticket, that interesting place, have a problem hit when you get there. What will happen when you get there? Have something bad happen, a problem. It could just even be that your whatever mode of travel broke down, or maybe you ended up in the wrong place, or when you got there, it wasn't what you thought it would be. And then you can go into how you dealt with it, and then what you learned and how you think about things. So I hope that helps you. Yes, think out of the box, come up with something creative, a form of travel. You can go to Mars. You can go to the country of your family's origin. You can go to a town to see a friend you haven't seen in years. You can go to Disneyland. You can ride a bus. It could be the future, the past. Make sure something happened there. Describe how you reacted, how you dealt with it, and then what you learned. So remember, when you see, they're asking you for a problem. They want to know what happened. And when something happens, nothing can happen if there wasn't some kind of problem. So I don't know if anybody has any questions at this point. We just have a few more minutes.
Okay.
I want to point out really quickly one more thing I was thinking about is, Angela, you're asking about how to add depth,
Yeah.
Add that reflective material. This is for the teachers too. In handout 11, it's all about how to add depth. It's from one of my writing guides, talking about explain what you learned, your recovery. It even has the prompt questions. What did you learn about yourself, others, the world? And I even have some lead-in lines to help you go to that reflective spot. I never thought about it before, but now I believe that and go on. When I look back at what happened, I realized that. It took me a while, but after talking about it with my friends, I saw things differently. Now I think, so these are just some prompt lines that might jog your thinking to flesh out some of that more deeper level thinking about, what you learned. At first, it seems as though nothing had changed, but then I started to understand that. There's some tips here. So I just wanted to point that out. And also, if you want to look into this idea of getting that reflective explanation part, is step 7, how to explain meaning, the video. It's really short, and it has, again, some of these ideas on how to explain what happened and what you learned. So
Super.
I wanted to add that. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody have an idea they want to know if it's any good, or if you're stuck on anything? I'd love to hear.
And so students, I know we have a lot of participants, and mics are all muted. And so what I would like to invite the students and teachers to do at this point, if you have a specific question for Janine, a couple of options. You can either type it into the chat box. We've got about 5 more minutes in this session. Janine is here at your disposal to answer any specific questions you may have. So please feel free to use the chat feature, or if you would like to unmute your mic, and we can hear you then, and you could ask the question at that time. And so I'm going to kind of summarize some things that stood out to me while we're waiting to see if a question is posed. But students, one thing Janine's made really clear is this approach does work for all 3 of the Apply Texas prompts. When you're looking at topic A, you're going to either write about your family or your home or your community or your culture. It's going to be your background of some sense. Starting, of course, with a problem, an anecdote that showcases a problem, and then, of course, the backstory. Topic B, the same approach. You're going to choose a talent, an interest, or an identity, something that's part of your identity. Again, starting with an anecdote that has a problem involved and the backstory. I know, once again, Janine did a great job of giving us some help with how to talk about how you dealt with the problem or the issue. She mentioned handout 11, and she also mentioned step 7 in the essay course with lots of prompting type of information to help with the lessons learned. And then topic C, one of the things that stuck out to me right now was, of course, you can get as creative as you possibly can. One thing that stuck out to me was if you do know what you're going to study, for example, if you want to be an engineer, what qualities does an engineer possess? An engineer possesses the quality of being a good problem solver. So if the story in topic C could somehow use problem-solving skills, that shows those college admissions officers in your creativeness that you do have those skills that relate to what you want to study. A couple of other things, students, and I want to make sure everyone knows, if you do speak Spanish, if you're totally bilingual, if there's a way to interject a couple of Spanish phrases. Janine, if you want to talk about that, how to, in a cool way, showcase a student's bilingual status. Also, if a student's a first-generation college student, if there's a way to cleverly weave that in, that's something college admissions officers would want to know as well. Do you want to talk about that very briefly?
Yeah. I would think the most natural place, when I looked at topic A, it says, what's the environment in which you were raised? I like to use the word, write about your background, something in your background. And they say family, home, neighborhood, community. The idea is you pick one and focus in, just write, if you're writing about your family or your community. Another thing I think you can write about to showcase the environment in which you were raised is cultural. What's your cultural background? That could be a wonderful essay. and I know that there's a strong Hispanic culture. If you're writing about that, that would be wonderful. How do you write about it? You want to really focus in on something specific. Maybe it's some sort of tradition regarding food, or some sort of traditional stories, or celebrations, and talk about that. And of course, look for some little problem or challenge that happened involving one of those. And if you do write about the Spanish culture, it's wonderful sometimes to inject some of the Spanish language. If you do use any Spanish words, make sure that you go, translate them for all the people that don't know Spanish. So if you say, and it was our, I don't know if you could think of an example, Angela, but the idea, if you say, I was talking about let's say, talking about mañana, you can write mañana, but then do a comma and say, which means tomorrow, so translate it somehow as well. But it's really lovely to include, especially things that are part of a tradition or, a food, a specialty food or something like that. It actually gives a rich flavor to these essays. And I think that writing about cultural things is a wonderful topic. But again, you just don't want to explain and tell about, say, your favorite, a certain tradition that you have, maybe making some specialty food with your grandmother. Show us a moment. Show us something that happened while you're in the act. Put us in that moment. And if you look for a problem, maybe you put too much water in the mixture, so your tamales didn't turn out. There you go. That's a little problem. And then you get to go and say how you dealt with it. Your grandma maybe gave you some ideas on how to, turn that into something wonderful anyway. And then you can talk about the different traditions that you like and the experiences with your grandparents. Wonderful essay that shows us about you in this environment. Notice that it says, explain how it has shaped you as a person. This essay has sort of 2 questions in it. So you want to show something about where you come from, include a little problem, and if you show how you dealt with that problem, you can then show what you learned from that, and that is sort of explain how it shaped you as a person. Be shaped by something or defined by something means basically just that you learned something.
Okay.
So
super, Janine. Well, Janine, we're already at the end of our hour, and
okay.
I want to thank all of the students and teachers for participating.
Thank you for.
Yeah, we will be back together at 10:30. So teachers, if you have another class and you're available to join us again this afternoon, we have sessions again at 10:30, 1, and 2:30. So students and teachers, good luck with your college admissions essays. We can hardly wait to see what happens and keep us posted. And thank you again for joining us.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks, Janine. See you in a little bit.
See you in a bit.